I am a trans man. I was, I'm technically pansexual and homo-romantic. So I'm attracted to anyone, really, not anyone, but attracted to people of all genders. But I really want to be in a relationship with men. It wasn't until I graduated college that I came out. But I've been thinking, during college there were some things that I was exposed to and learned about. I learned a lot about like the trans community during that time in college. And at that time I was kind of identifying as bisexual, but wasn't really out about it because I was with a male partner at the time, and so we were living, because I hadn't transitioned yet, so we were living as and perceived as a straight couple. And I remember that after we graduated from college, I had asked him and my mom, what would you say if I said I was a boy? And they both kind of laughed at me and said, that's not possible. I don't see that at all. To be fair to them a little bit, I was wearing a lot of pink and a lot of frilly stuff at the time. Just because I do like some women's clothing, and I do like some things that are outside of what you would expect for a male or man identified person. I like to paint my nails, I like makeup and stuff like that. But so that's what made it difficult for me to come to the decision of my own identity, because I was like, well, I can't be a man because I like nail polish, or I can't be a man because I like, wearing skirts on occasion. Instead of thinking that there are cis men out there that do these same things, I was just thinking, oh, that can't be true for me because you have to be hyper masculine to be trans, right? So there's this, it still goes on today, this stereotype, and kind of like it's pushed onto the community sometimes that you have to just be hyper masculine in order to be trans, or hyper feminine if you want to be a trans woman. So I kind of buried that down for like 7 years at that point because I didn't get a good reaction. I came out as bisexual. Basically, I just put it on MySpace back in the MySpace days, and that's how I came out. I just put it in my profile. And my mom noticed, and she goes, "Oh yeah. I always knew you were gay and stuff like that." So she said she's known since I was a kid. I remember one instance where I was talking with my dad, and he said, "Your mom said one of y'all is gay." I'm like, "It's me, isn't it?" And he's like, "I'm not going to tell you." And I'm like, "It's me. I know it's me." And that was just a funny reaction because at the time I wasn't out. I wasn't ready to be out. But I knew it was me because I liked purple, and purple's a queer color according to my mom and stuff like that. So those kinds of things. And then later on, I divorced my ex-husband. So that was the same partner that I had when I graduated from college, because it just didn't work out. And then I ended up in a relationship with an ex who was very abusive physically and mentally and emotionally, and he was a trans man. So I, at the time, was identifying as non-binary. I still do, and I forgot to mention that in my identity part. Kind of more on the masculine side, but non-binary as well. And he told me that meant that I was like an imaginary fairy or something like that. He didn't believe in non-binary. And so we split up after a while. We were together for about 1.5 years. And then after that, I married another person. The person at the time, she identified as male. But she transitioned. So the conversation that we had when that all started, when her transition started, was that I had asked her how she would feel if I said I was trans. And she goes, well, and we watched a video. And then at the end of the video, she says, I think I'm trans. So what I did was I put off my transition for 1 year to give her time to transition. Because I'm always serving others and not myself first, right? Because I didn't want us to do it at the same time, so it didn't look like it was some orchestrated thing or whatever, because you know how people talk about things and think about things, right? But yeah, so I waited and let her transition, and then I transitioned. Later came to find out that I just wasn't interested in a relationship with a woman, so our relationship ended. And then I started transitioning towards the end of our relationship, and then afterwards, that's when I really started my transition, because I was supporting both of us on my salary at that time, and then when we split up, I was now supporting just myself. So I had a little bit of extra money to play around with. So I had the ability to save up for top surgery. I had the ability to start hormones. I had the ability to do all these things that I hadn't been able to before. Change my name and all that kind of stuff. So that stuff all happened after that relationship was over. So yeah, I did all that stuff. And then now here I am today, living my best life. I'm with a new partner now who identifies as gender fluid. And he is actually a drag queen. So I met him through that big drag show that I was talking about earlier that happened in 2019. So we met through that. And yeah, that's where I'm at today. I had identified as non-binary because I was like, well, I don't really fit into masculine stuff. I don't really fit into feminine stuff. So I was like, I have to be somewhere in the middle, right? So later on, I realized that I can be somewhere in the middle and also appear on the more masculine side and have, go on hormone therapy and stuff like that. So it was a really, really tricky process for me. I remember always thinking as a kid that there was something wrong with me. I didn't know who I really was. And then later on, as I kept growing and developing, I felt the same way. I had always thought that my life would end before the age of 30 or around the age of 30. And that's around the time that I started transitioning, was 30. So for me, it was like I knew something was coming, but it ended up a little bit different than I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to, die or something. But in a way, I guess, the person I was pretending to be was no longer in existence, but the person that I really was. So it was kind of like a transformation, in a way. But yeah, I think that it's because I want to appear masculine. I want to have a beard. I want to have body hair. I want to, have a lower voice and stuff like that. But I also still want to wear, things that are associated with women or femininity. So that's kind of where I get the non-binary side of things for me. Or gender non-conforming, but more non-binary, because I feel it gender-wise as opposed to just presentation-wise. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. I think the most impactful memory I've ever had was when I first came out as trans to someone, a member of the spiritual community, a friend of mine. And the first thing she said was, I see it. I see you. So that was the first time anyone had ever said that to me, and the first time that I had ever had anyone who kind of verified the way I was feeling, as opposed to people who were just trying to tell me, oh, that doesn't exist, or oh, you're not. So that, really meant a lot to me, having someone say, I see that, I understand that, and I'm happy for you, and stuff like that. So that was a really, really big, impactful moment for me. I think that being yourself as much as you can, where it's safe, is really important. Not letting anyone kind of dull your shine in a way, and not letting anyone tell you that you can't be who you are. It's very, very important to be happy with yourself and be happy with your life and be comfortable with yourself, whatever that means to you. I think that that's the most important thing. I think as many people as can be out as possible is great, because that helps kind of normalize the LGBTQ community. And it helps people learn more and open their minds a little bit, especially those people who haven't heard anything and don't think that they've been exposed to anyone from the LGBTQ community. More than likely they have, they just didn't know it, because you can't tell with all of us that we're part of the community, right? Some people you can, some people you can't, but me you can tell as soon as I start talking, and then gesticulating all over the place, but not for everybody. So the more people that are out and open and honest about themselves, the better I think things are going to get. But again, with safety, people need to be safe. And if anyone feels unsafe coming out, then I would never advocate for coming out. Of course, do what is within your own safety limits, but yeah, being yourself, being authentically you, I think is the biggest piece of advice that I can pass along.